Record. Hello. Hello, everyone. So yeah,
Hey, Magda.
let's start. It's about the time. So welcome everyone to this discussion on how to prevent burnout at work, but I mean, maybe not only at work, right? Because we have our lives are much more complex than only work. Yeah, so let's have a chat. Let's maybe introduce ourselves first. Martina, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hello. I'm Martina. I'm a physiotherapist currently based in Amsterdam. I am working in my clinic in Amsterdam. I am also working a lot on the road with professional athletes. So I'm basically traveling almost half of the year. And I'm also coaching people online, especially to stay fit and healthy during a busy life. And I have a lot of people that I coach that travel also because traveling is very, it can be a big challenge when you do it for work. It's like a lot of meetings, a lot of stress. And there with those clients, but also in the clinic in Amsterdam, I see that especially now, this post-COVID period, we have a lot of people with burnout. People struggle a lot with what's going on in the world. They struggle with work. I think some people have adjusted now to the new way of working from home, but we see a lot of cases of burnout or close to burnout. And it's, I think, a very serious, let's call it condition that's happening at the moment more than ever before. So that's why I think it's great to talk about it and just have a view of both our angles. So I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, me too. So also just to quickly introduce myself, my name is Magdalena. I'm a career and mindset coach with years of experience in business. So I started my professional career in marketing, then I moved to digital marketing and I was account manager, then sales, and then people manager. And at some point during pandemic, actually, I had this big idea at the time when I was in Tanzania, when everything started. So that was March 2020. This big realization that I want to pivot a little bit my career and go into coaching and spirituality. And this is what I do currently. I help people to like thrive in their careers, but also to help them to be more themselves in a way, so they can be more authentic and fulfilled in their lives. So this is more or less what I do. And yes, burnout thing, it's something very much present right now. And also I think that with the time, we all started working more on our computers and maybe having less of this humane contact, like face to face. This is all kind of causing issues and like this kind of burnout and being a little bit disconnected from normal interactions. So yes, this is, I think, a great topic for our discussion. And Anna, of course, we will be talking. Feel free to ask questions. In the meantime, you can drop like a comment on the chat. But you can always like unmute yourself and just like ask question. This is not a problem. There might be more people joining, I'm not sure, but in any case, we are recording this and we will send the recording over to people. Okay, so how do you understand, like, what's burnout for you? Because we all may have a little bit of a different definition and understanding of the burnout.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to start, because actually burnout from the WHO, the World Health Organization, they have revised their definition just lately, and they put it in the International Classification of Diseases of this code, and they call it an occupational phenomenon. And it's not like they don't classify it as medical condition, but they say an occupational phenomenon, and they say like burnout is a syndrome that is resulting from chronic workplace stress that has not been successfully managed. And they say that it's characterized by three dimensions: feelings of energy depletion, of exhaustion, increased mental distance from one's job. And I think that's especially now, very accurate with COVID, that we're also working from home, feelings of negativism, and reduced professional efficacy. So I think most of the times I'm not a fan of big definitions, but I think they explain it quite well, because I think it is occupational. Most of the times it starts at work, but what I see from my clients that I have contact with on a daily basis, I see that most of the times there is an issue or an overload of stress at work, but a lot of times a family situation comes also towards it. And I personally, when I talk to doctors specialized in burnouts or occupational doctors, I sometimes miss that part, that they look at the family situation, at the social situation. Just to take an example, like I had a client that was in a burnout, and she basically was so stressed because her mom just died. And then she had to work at the same time. It was very busy, and there was just not a lot of care for her for the actual emotional stuff and was going on at home. So she was just like, next to the stress that everybody was like overloading her with work, she was mentally very exhausted and just needed some space for like her mourning and find a place for it. And then, for example, another client said like, well, my kid is absolutely not sleeping. And he said like, we are just so exhausted, my wife and I, we cannot function anymore. And then he said like, it's funny enough, he feels like burned out and so tired from home. Yeah, because he's just very extremely tired, and then he cannot function that much at home, at work. And so then again, he was always saying like work wasn't that much of a problem, that gave him structure. So I think it is like the definition is a good start, but there is like so many more factors to it. And actually, when you then read scientific articles, they all bring in more effects of like, how is your sleep going? How is your social factors? How are your emotions? And the psychosocial model, right? So that's like extremely important. Because again, the definition is a start point. But then again, once we talk to people in the clinic, then like a whole problem reveals itself. And it's just, yeah, so much more, because sometimes maybe at work, you can just think, okay, this is stress, or the manager, this doesn't work out. But then, yeah, again, I think there's most of times like a whole big Pandora's box that's being opened once somebody starts talking about it. So I like, my point of view is really that it's a big complex problem, and that a lot of people don't. I don't think everybody's always taking it seriously. Managers, workspaces, even doctors, sometimes they're like, well, because it's not classified, like, well, just take rest. But like, yeah, take rest, that's not always easy.
Yeah, exactly. You see, so surely because I'm more of a career mindset coach, the cases I have with in my proximity are more related to work. But of course, this is what I'm doing. So surely I attract people with such problems. So in this case, this is like this kind of mental, emotional, and like physical exhaustion. But as we know, this all starts with emotions, right? Because before we have like this pain, I don't know, in the neck, or like this chronic pain in muscles that sometimes even young people, like they don't really know what is happening. We have this mental tension, and oftentimes people are not very much aware of that, because also from, for example, emotional intelligence, now that I'm like a certified analyst, I know that it's not the case that each of us understands his or her emotions very well. Sometimes people feel a certain way and they have no idea what is happening, what triggered that. They just feel miserable, or they feel angry or like frustrated for days and months. And sometimes they don't do anything about it because they don't really understand what is going on around them, right? So yeah, those can be various cases, and it's a very complex issue when it comes to burnout. And it can really, work for like people in a very different way, and those triggers can be also like various. So there's no such thing as one definition or like one reason why people get burnout. For me, this is like those four main components. So it's like emotional, then there's like mental, physical, and spiritual. So we could go through those phases, and for example, we could like just give tips, to people who will be listening to us, what to do in order to potentially avoid this burnout, or maybe even to recognize it, right? Because I think I've been through this situation that I was already, you see, and I don't even know whether I already had burnout or I was at the pre-burnout stage. I don't know. because that was like a few years ago. And I remember like all of a sudden having a little bit of insomnia. I remember once I literally started crying during the meeting, and there was no reason for me to cry. It was absolutely something like all of a sudden I realized that the tears were like going down on my cheeks. And I asked myself, I was like, I have no idea what is happening. Why am I crying, you know? And then I realized this is a little worrying because this is not really normal. And I started to understand, and yes, and then I came to the conclusion is because for the last few months, I'm like frustrated with many things, mainly in my professional life. So probably that was the reason, right? So, but yeah, you see, I wasn't even sure. But at least I started like questioning myself, and I was like, okay,
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
understand what is it about. So when it comes to emotional, for example, sphere, which is to me extremely important because from there, like all of the other problems start. Like thinking about the workspaces, definitely I think people need to feel safe. This is a super must, and even in the Maslow hierarchy of needs, it's a basic thing. And we are not talking about the shelter. However, of course, there is people around the world now having even, I mean, issues with the physical shelter, but in the companies with the safety, meaning that people can express their opinions freely, you know, that they don't feel there will be consequences. And I'm talking about constructive feedback and being like adult and mature. But this is not case for everyone still. You know, we are in 2022, and that's not the case that everyone can really talk freely about how do they feel. I don't know, Martina, maybe you have something to add for this.
No, I mean that's for sure. That's a big reason, right? And again, so for me, it's always quite interesting as a physiotherapist. I get so many people in my room, let's say, where I treat them, and it's very private, and people tell me a lot of stories. And actually, also like I was working a little bit during COVID, and most people also said like for some people that safety meant staying at home because it doesn't matter if they didn't feel safe in the work environment or if they didn't feel safe because of COVID outside. So I, for me, never before have realized that safety phenomenon, right? That they need to feel comfortable. And that's why a lot of people said, look, at home, I'm like, it's good, it's my environment, and I've loved to work from home. Of course, there is like 1,000 different opinions. Some people said it's narrowing me, and it's like almost like the walls come towards me. But yeah, definitely, it's a very big important factor. And for me, what I would like to go back to what you said before, you mentioned two things also for the burnout. It's like pain, it's physical pain, and it's insomnia. So also actually recently an article was published where they tried to find the correlation between pain, insomnia, like lack of sleep, bad quality sleep with burnout. And they could actually point down, like they could pinpoint that it starts with like bad sleep when you have a lot of lack of sleep, insomnia, or you cannot catch up on your sleep. Eventually like back pain starts, like low back pain, what we in the physiotherapy world call aspecific back pain. So if you have back pain without a trauma or without having injured yourself, so those kind of pains start wherever in the body, but a lot of time back pain. So they said the correlation between this insomnia and back pain is a huge factor and actually predictor for burnout. So for us, it's like very important also to us that in the treatment room, like how is sleep going? Because actually for more, even for injury healing and all that kind of stuff, like sleep becomes a very important factor. We need to really look at the quality of sleep. And again, that is a factor what I think it's very, very difficult to manage because yes, we have sleep experts that say you need to look at your sleep hygiene, don't look at screens and stuff. But again, that's sometimes so theoretical and so far away from real life. And how you should have like the temperature and everything, like everything can be set very good physically, but you can still be mentally so tired and like thinking about stuff that you cannot sleep properly. So obviously insomnia is a whole case by itself that can make people extremely sick if it takes like a longer time, because then the next thing what I can like then talk a little bit later about it, the physical effect. So obviously now I'm going very specific, but then also our stress hormone cortisol is rising, and like too much cortisol is not good for us. It makes us sick. but that's again complicated, so I can come back to that later. I just wanted to come back to what you said about sleep and back pain, because that's really physical factors, where because a lot of times you cannot really see if a person on the street has a burnout, because most people will say, yeah, it's okay, I have to move on. Or if people have kids, if people have to take care of their sick parents or of somebody else, like people just need to carry on and they cannot be weak, because a lot of people I think feel as soon as they dare to be weak, then the whole card house collapses, right? So I think sometimes it's also with insomnia and back pain. For me, it's like sometimes already a first warning symptom where I'm like, okay, we really need to check where this comes from, because maybe a person just doesn't want me to tell you they're so exhausted mentally, right? And close to a burnout. So I
Yeah.
think it's a very important factor.
Yeah, I can even relate to my situation, why I had this insomnia. That was definitely overthinking, emotional state was causing this
Yeah.
insomnia. It was overthinking and not addressing everything, with the
Mm-hmm.
communication. Because like oftentimes, especially in the corporate, I don't know, sometimes there is this, I'm not sure if you are familiar with this expression, like the elephant in the room. So there is
Mm-hmm.
a meeting and there is like something in the air, but no one really says anything because it's uncomfortable to say. So everyone ignores this elephant in the room, even though it's there, right? And then you are bothered, and then you are like overthinking and thinking like, what will be the, I don't know, the next step, what will be the consequences, etc. Lots of people just, it's a kind of trading this short-term comfort for the long-term discomfort in a way,
Yeah.
right? Because you
Yeah.
prefer like not to say anything. Okay, hopefully everything is fine. Today is Wednesday, so we are close to the weekend, right? And the week will be over, and then over time we are just accumulating all of those emotions. And yeah, like to me, that was definitely the emotional aspect that started influencing my life, my sleep, and surely also my physics. Because
Yeah.
you didn't know me a few years ago. I wasn't even looking that healthy, because I was definitely like overeating and things that I shouldn't. For example, I cannot eat too much carbs, especially gluten, because I did analysis and I'm a little bit allergic to that. So all of this stress caused me to behave in a way that was not really healthy for me.
Mm-hmm.
This emotions that was like suppressed, and not everything was very much addressed, because maybe because of this lack of safety. And sometimes I know that people also are not always aware of their emotions, and they don't really know. So for example, one of the things that I really recommend to do is journaling. It can be done every day, let's say even a few lines before going to sleep. And for people who have like tendencies for depression, they could even, for example, have a rule that I just sit down and I write until I have the entire page full, right? So then you just make sure that everything will be on the paper, and you have to write things. They don't have to make sense, but you just have to like put everything out on the surface. And this really helps for people to understand what is going on inside them.
Yeah, or even just I can imagine just to get rid of it, like just to give
Yeah.
the thought a place. And like for example, what I do when I'm very busy in the night and I have like 1,000 things and I'm like, oh, I need to do this for my business. I always keep a little notebook close to my nightstand, because I'm like, whenever like I go crazy with my head, I just write the thought down and then I can sleep. Then I can let it go because I put it somewhere and I know I'm not going to forget it. Because and that's just an efficiency thing, right? That has nothing to do with overthinking, but it's on the same line. And even though that's why I like that we have this talk, right? Because we come from different fields. But I also tell people like, do journaling when you have pain and we cannot really figure out where the pain comes from. And then it's not really, then it's more journaling of like, write down every little bit what causes more pain. Because sometimes people come to me a few days later and they're like, yeah, it was pain, but I don't remember. But once they write down, they're like, oh yeah, look at the list, because that was really stressful and the back pain flared up again. And then we can most of the times really find the solution. So I really always think everybody should always carry a little journal with themselves, because it's just good for everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really good to give some thoughts a place, I think, for
Yeah.
sure.
And in the moments, for example, when you're like working, and we are feeling like, okay, in this moment, I'm like really feeling those emotions, I don't know, some unwanted emotions. definitely the best thing would be to stop. And especially now that many people work remotely, we can even have like, I don't know, 5-10 minutes of a very short meditation. Or even if we don't have those 10 minutes, surely we will find those 3 minutes just to like sit down, close eyes, and just take like really 7-10 very deep breaths. This is already helping a lot to just like ground ourselves a little bit and stay in the moment, right? Because this is this constant fight and overthinking, thinking about the future, like, which is causing anxiety, right? Thinking about the past is causing depression. And being in the present moment is definitely, I mean, it's easy to say, and I know that I'm also working on this to be more in the present moment, right? But this is like the healthiest for us, that we should be practicing every day. Yeah. Even if we like, I know that life can be very busy, but even if it's 5 minutes, it makes a difference over time.
Well, and let's just be honest. I mean, everybody's oh so busy, but everybody has always time to waste an hour on Instagram or scroll on social media or do something on the phone, right? So it's like I'm trying, I'm not always succeeding with it, but I have my little Headspace app on the phone, and I'm trying to, like, when I'm, for example, traveling with the athletes, I'm like basically, yeah, available for them like 24/7 almost, and there's almost no time for myself. So I have to get those little moments and just like 10 minutes even, or even if I'm lucky, I find 30 minutes, then I go out for a walk, because also, again, movement is extremely important, and you know, just to relax a little bit, go out in nature. And even if you live in the city, just go around the block, because it will break the habit of what you were doing, and it just shifts a little bit. Like, I guess it shifts the brain, and physically you have a reaction to it.
Yeah. It's like changing the state. This is how we are in coaching. Changing the state, definitely. And what's very typical is like when someone receives an email that's, I don't know, maybe it's not that very positive, on like we expected a different outcome. The worst thing to do would be to reply to this email in the moment, right? Because in this moment, like, we feel all of the spectrum of emotions, and we may be, I don't know, frustrated or something like this. Then definitely what is the best to do is to change the state, go for a little walk, even to prepare tea, coffee, anything, and just really kind of start thinking a little bit more rationally, because in the moment everything is extremely emotional, and of course we want to avoid those kind of reactions. That's for sure.
I even for those kind of breaks, I keep some household chores for that. Like, for me, I'm a person, I love to do laundry, so I'm like just making sure that the laundry is finished when I need a break, and then I just hang it up, or I make sure I fold it, because it just gives me a task to do, and I need to do it anyways, right? But I kind of need to concentrate on it because I want to fold it properly. So it gives me a break to, like, gives me the chance to really like have a break from those other thoughts, or at least park them a little bit. So I find it always quite interesting. Or vacuum cleaning. I think it's really also having a break and doing something physically helps for sure.
Yeah, that's for sure. You know, so for example, I in those moments I check my plants. I'm like, I don't want to, okay, let me think a little bit, let me think clearly. So then I start watering my plants, or I go with my dog for like a short walk. I like probably I'm not a huge fan of like I mean, yes, we do clean the apartment, but that would be not the thing for me to do. But then I'm looking to, maybe I can prepare myself a matcha or something like this.
Yeah. But it's also what's interesting then, why walking would be so important for those kind of breaks also, if we can schedule a break. And it's also like, I think scheduling is so important. Like, scheduling the day is important, especially when we work from home, because we have a bit more flexibility to stretch it. But like, walking would be one of the first activities we recommend as a physiotherapist, because what I said before, the cortisol, when we have so much stress, cortisol is the stress hormone. And of course, stress hormone sounds super bad, and everybody says like, oh, too much cortisol is bad. It's not always that bad, of course. It's not that black and white. But it used to be, back in the days, it was the hormone that prepared us to, like, for the fight or flight modus. So it meant, like, if a bear stands in front of us, we need to react quickly. Are we fighting the bear, or are we running? So it gives us this boost of energy to make a quick, good reaction and have physical strength for something quick. But nowadays we have, the modern stress is like high on a constant temperature. So it's not like going up and down how it should be. It's going up and it stays there. And this continuous like outpouring of cortisol can be too much. And the cortisol comes from the adrenal glands, and those glands can be fatigued and just exhausted and depleted. So we need to make sure that we get those high cortisol levels lower a little bit, because some people, they're like, okay, you know, they have all the signs for a burnout, and they're like, but let me go work out, let me go run, because that at least I can empty my head. But that's not very smart to do, in the sense like not smart, because if that is really all you live for, if you want to do a CrossFit workout, but you should do something more calm. You should go for a walk, have a yoga session, because the body, even with sport, that's actually a stress reaction, a good stress reaction. But we then add that bad stress to like more bad stress. So we should take it easy and give the body like the chance to like move. So the blood flow starts, with the muscles get warm, we can like move the body, but on like a way lower heart rate. And that is extremely important, because then with a lower heart rate, the body can actually just like work properly. And also when we walk, we can make it a bit more tired. So maybe even a little yoga flow before going to bed would be super important, because we get a bit calm and then the body gets tired from the activity, and maybe that helps with sleeping also. But so that the cortisol is also has an extremely important role in it, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And nice that you're talking about it today, because yesterday I had this moment. I was thinking like, maybe I should go for a run. And I already felt that, you know, maybe I'm kind of getting sick, so maybe I shouldn't. But at the same time, I felt like my energy wasn't the most like stable yesterday. And at some point I was just feeling like, I think actually my body just needs some rest, you know. So I just need some vitamin C, tea, etc. And yes, there were thoughts like, go for a run, because I think that you have too much of this energy that was pretty mixed, right? Also, I'm like into astrology, so I know that we are in a very intense period of time with all of the eclipses and stuff. But sometimes we are like a little bit kind of fighting against, you know, things, and we should just like rest. And then at some point I was like, no, this is not the day for me to run. This is the day for me to rest, because otherwise I will just exhaust my body even more. That even for today, I won't be able to talk, you know, like properly, because I will really kind of waste all of my energy, and then my body won't have energy to fight like this kind of congestion, which I'm having right now.
Yeah. And it's also like we need to become a bit more intuitive. I think like modern society forgot a bit to listen to the body, actually. Like, and I think it's quite interesting what you say, because yes, we need to listen more to the body, and we really need to make sure we accept the signals, and especially as women, because don't get me started on female health and the female hormones, right? Because it's a fact that the female cycle, it gives us completely different energy throughout the cycle. And like we are very tired before we have our period, and like physically with the hormones, we're extremely strong after the period until ovulation. So that's fact that we are also like, we would perform the best in a sporting event, let's say in a competition, or even at work, we would perform the best right after the period until ovulation. And before, we're quite exhausted because the body is getting ready and the hormones drop a lot. So what happens, that is also where we need, or where we have all these cravings with food, right? And then again, sometimes we want to be so perfect and like do what society says. So we're like, we're tired, but we still want to go for a run because everybody needs to see us running in the park. We need to still like just eat salad because, oh, we're good women and we want to be skinny, right? But actually we're craving chocolate like crazy. So I think that's like the next thing where we need to get a bit off from what society wants from us, because it's just too much, and we need to listen to the body. And especially in a phase where we're exhausted emotionally and physically. And again, we don't get the recovery, because again, sleep is actually what happens in sleep on a physiological level. That is where the cells recover, like all the cell recovery and the cell growth happens in sleep. So if we cannot sleep properly, we're super prone to injuries because the body and the tissue doesn't recover. So it's just then one downward spiral. So we need to be very gentle and nice to ourselves and give a little bit of self-love in which way ever. Nice food, and of course not overeating, because that could then also be something where like the next emotion, when you're stressed, you're like, okay, give me chocolate, and you just hammer everything in. So again, finding what works for you and what is your escape mechanism, I think that's extremely important also, because then you can find that and find a way to not treat it, but how to like put it back in the right direction.
Yeah, that's for sure, because there's, I mean, surely women who really train very hard. I mean, you know better, but from also my experience, I know, yes, they train so hard, like even the first or the second day of the period, which yeah, can cause very bad things, right? Or even like sometimes people going to the gym the next day after, let's say, parties, when they consume lots of alcohol. This is already like something bad for their bodies. And yeah, but we are all kind of responsible. We are all adults. It would be nice to just kind of listen to ourselves a little bit more. And I believe that we can do kind of many things in life. So of course, like we can drink sometimes, we can eat like gluten sometimes, but just like re-observe ourselves and see how our body reacts to those things. Because even myself, a few years ago, I was definitely over consuming carbs at some point. And yeah, at some point I just didn't feel well in my body. I was some kilos heavier, and I wasn't like overweight, but definitely that was not the state, that was not how I wanted to see myself, you know, also in a way. So I'm way happier how I am right now. I eat healthier. I don't even cook that much, because also, I mean, we live in Spain. There's like so many fresh food that doesn't require cooking. Also with the climate is different. So
Yeah, for sure,
we
sure.
don't
And
need
that
to cook so much. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's also now, I mean, as I'm in Amsterdam, basically, it's cold, the cold season starts, and like you want to have more cozy food, right? And that's it's also another thing. So here I want to again pick up two things that you just said, right? So it's like it's with for women, it's also the perfectionism of wanting to do everything good, and like also again this like what I don't need to I cannot eat carbs. Carbs are bad. Like no, carbs are not bad. We need carbs to survive because that's energy. It's then again which sorts of carbs do we have, right? Like which do we eat, like whole foods, or do we eat like a burger? Like so
Yeah.
maybe if you eat 1,000 carbs in a burger, 1,000 carbs in a potato, that's completely different, right? So but it's this thing of like, oh, we hear since we're young that carbs are the problem, and like then we want to do it perfect, we want to look perfect, and then we realize we become tired because we're exhausted, and that's not nice. And so what I also see in daily life, in my practice, a lot of people that have a burnout come out of it or go into one, it's like a lot of perfectionism. Also they just like want to and have to put all the balls up, and they need to like juggle the balls and just like make it work somehow, right? And again, they want to be a good mother, they want to be a career woman, like women and a lot of times, right? And they want to do everything perfect, have a social life, meet the friends for yoga or for sport, but sometimes it's just too much. Like we cannot just like, if the bucket is full, it's full.
Yeah. I mean, we should be just listening to ourselves, you know. And
Yeah,
I definitely also, since I'm a coach, I definitely see those things differently, and I really listen to myself, and I'm like, okay, some people do it differently, and maybe with some people we are already having such different lives that, you know, it's like the vibe is different, the energy is different. And you know, I just made peace with the fact that my life is very much like different right now. I really respect what I want, what my body wants. Also being an entrepreneur, like loads of things changed. And yeah, we should be just really be kind of confident and proud of what we want, and like just looking at ourselves and not kind of looking at, I don't know, the beauty icons, or like people who have it kind of all. But you
yeah,
know, in my opinion, there is always like a price for everything. I just don't think that people can, for example, like work 50 hours a week constantly, right? And then also like have lots of time for the kids, and also have lots of time for the friends, and like, I don't know, going for like fancy holidays and stuff. There's always like this price that we have to
yeah,
pay,
yeah,
and just kind of ask ourselves, okay, what is this price that I'm willing to pay? And also make peace with certain things, that okay, maybe like I won't be able to make those super nice holidays this summer because I have to focus more on work, right?
yeah.
And that's it. And this is okay. And if like someone in your environment, like is not really accepting this because it's like, you know, Martina, why don't you go for holidays with us this year? You say no, because for example, my priority is this, or like someone is a mother. And this woman just simply says, I mean, you know, within those months, the priority will be, let's say, my kids and my family, etc. And just be confident with those decisions, because in a way we are like masters of our lives, you know. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And it's also like, I mean, yeah, somebody that has it all, like you said, do they really have it all, right? I mean, it's like, it seems perfect too, like, because everybody posts the perfect pictures on Instagram, everybody posts the perfect jobs on LinkedIn, and everybody's also perfect. But I'm like, yeah, everybody struggles. And again, I see sometimes super kick-ass business people coming in and they just struggle, and they like, or cry on my treatment bench, or they're like, I don't know how to do it anymore, but like everybody expects it from me. Or they're a manager, they say like, I have to lead a team, so I cannot be the weak one, right? So it's just, I think it's also like everybody's so individual, that I think that is what's forgotten also. Like we can have definitions of a problem, we can have like a protocol of something, but everybody's individual. Because again, maybe your burnout is coming from work overload, maybe you are not being understood at work, but maybe you struggle with something else outside. The kids don't sleep, parents just died. So I think that is a lot of time when I hear from clients, they say like, yeah, work offered them like a whole let's say therapy process to go to, but they say I sit in this group and there's people with all completely different problems, but everybody has a burnout, but nobody can resonate with each other, and they're like, you know what, leave it, I don't need to do it. And it's just so often, and I can understand, like centralizing healthcare is so difficult, but everybody's individual, and especially with such problem, everybody needs a known approach. Because again, maybe for you the walking helps, maybe for somebody else yoga helps, maybe somebody else just wants to meditate. You cannot just a one size fits all. And that's why I think finding somebody that can help you through a process, that can, you know, guide you, or with work or with health, that's just like extremely important.
Yeah. Another point that you mentioned is like that there is this pressure of the society, and we actually had a live recently with Maya about like this entire hustle culture, right? The pressure and everything. And it's like, I'm also so happy seeing more and more people actually since pandemic just like saying no to that. And for example, they moved to the rural areas, you know, they bought like little houses really cheap. They are out of the cities, they are kind of working remotely, and they are kind of a little bit isolated from all of that hustle, you know.
Yeah.
Like I live in the city, you also live in the city. I mean, I really love living in Barcelona, but also I know that at some point I will want to be a little bit more quiet, and I will definitely have more priorities. And this entire hustle culture, I know that we talk about like, okay, you work in the corporate, but you need also like your side job, this and that, you know, like it can be super overwhelming. I mean, already working in the corporate, this is already like a lot. And then sometimes I hear people saying, yeah, I would like to have like an extra job. I mean, of course, it makes sense. You can create something for yourself if you think that this is like your future. This is really this is a great idea, and I can help you with that as a coach, as a career mindset coach.
Yeah.
At the same time, be careful with this overwhelm, because when we are only in our heads, and this is like this really kind of mental and rational pressure that we calculate everything, we are kind of losing touch with ourselves, you know. And this is a little bit spiritual, but then we are not really aligned with our soul, you know. And like, I don't know who believes in those things. I kind of do believe in reincarnation and all of those things. I believe that we all have certain purpose on this earth, you know, in this lifetime. So being only in our heads, being constantly overwhelmed, is just simply makes us live on autopilot, and we are just changing programs, you know. So now we are okay in the couple, and we like working like a lot, and then when we ask ourselves like why we work for certain company, we don't even know, but it's basically because it pays bills, and actually they pay very well. So this is usually what people find out, that because they have fancy lunches, they have like fancy trips somewhere, but in the end they don't even sometimes believe in this product, or they are not very aligned with this, or like even the business can be against their values. This is also what is happening. And sometimes people are a little bit even afraid to really face this, you know, understand like, yes, that's actually against my values, so I should be doing something else in life. So sure, you can have a side job, but this realization and awareness, to me, this is like the first step, you know, like if you are struggling, the first step is like just to realize what is kind of not working in your life, what is causing this overwhelm. Because now talking about all of the mental things, it is hours of work, yes, but you know, sometimes when we really love what we are doing, like you are working, I mean, long hours. Now I'm also now long hours, but I really enjoy it because I always wanted to create my business. This is my first business. I'm an entrepreneur, and you know, I'm kind of waking up every day super elevated that I can create something, which was not the case in corporate, because
for sure.
You have lots of restrictions. I also believe, to the mental sphere, that I wanted to add, apart from this overwhelm that sometimes we are like too much in our heads and like calculating everything. I also believe that in order to prevent burnout, we all need some challenges, some positive challenges in lives, you know. So whether, of course, if you are an entrepreneur, there's lots of challenges, but sometimes people in the corporate, they at some point get to the point that they are not learning that much, and they are kind of, oh, this is a job, pays my bills. But then over time, we see with some of my clients that this frustration is arising, like very slowly, gradually, but it does. And I believe that we all need some challenges, some people less, some people more, but we should be learning something new. This is something very natural for humans.
Sure.
That those kind of cognitive aspects need to be fulfilled.
Yeah. Or a goal, you know, you can call it challenge, you can call it a goal, because it's also like, you work, unless it's not your company, and if you just like are sucked into the corporate machine, right, it can be so difficult to just find the motivation. You're just like, oh, I'm just gonna go like a groundhog day, right, just like every day the same, every day in the suit, every day to the tram, and like then go for it. And it's hard, right? And it's actually quite interesting what you just said with what's the purpose in life, right? Because actually the other day I read an interview of a very high up manager from a big bank, and he had an emergency surgery, and he had an interview in the newspaper where he said he had a near death experience, and he was coming back, and he was like, holy moly, I never believed that existed. And I was always just super strict of like, let's be efficient, let's make money. And then he was like eventually saying, I just realized now it's a gift, we're on this earth, right? And we just get one life. It's a gift. So we should just enjoy it and not make life so hard for us. And at the same time, there was another article about a young banker, and he's completely burned out, and he can't do it anymore because so much was asked from him. And he was like, okay, I'm going to do this traineeship, and that's the first step of the ladder. And then I'm going to become partner at that age, and I'm just going to go for it. And I'm going to do all these hours, and it doesn't matter. And worst case, there's always like a little bit of cocaine and drugs and like alcohol. So we do it because everybody does it. Because the big problem is, they say, like, the companies is like, well, if you don't want to do it, 10 other people are waiting for this job. So, or you or 10 others. And it's this pushing, right? That it's just like, if you're not strong enough and if you're not confident enough, especially when people are young and they're being told this is the chance of their lifetime, people get sucked into it. And this guy also said his dad died, and then everything collapses, because then he said, like, okay, maybe to get over of like my morning, I just go back to work and work. And he said that was like destroyed him. And now he found another job, and he says like he was ashamed in the beginning to not have this fancy job anymore, but he's just like, you know what, I'm happy and I'm healthy. So and I think that's also like, people are extremely scared of changing careers, I think, because I had a moment after my study where I was like, I was quite tired and exhausted from my study, and I was like a bit disappointed. I didn't know, like, this is not what I expected from the profession. And then I was like, I don't really want to work. So I went to work in a restaurant full time for a whole summer, because I was like, I cannot hear anything medical anymore. It drives me crazy. And eventually I found my joy again, and I love what I'm doing. But also like I was raised with like, okay, you make a decision, you're very good at what you're doing, but you don't just like change job because all of a sudden you want to. So I think it's more and more accepted in society now that people are like saying, look, I'm not happy, I'm going to do something else. But I think depending on in which culture you grew up or how your parents brought you up, for a lot of people, I think it's like, no, this is my job. I studied it. Well, now I'm stuck in it. But you're not. It's like, it's a hard decision to make, but you can make it, especially now.
Yeah, I mean, like I definitely seen like many terrified faces when people started discovering a little bit about themselves, you know, their values, and like this realization when they were like, actually, you know, I'm in a job that is not, this is not really my calling. And I know this
Mm-hmm.
is not very comfortable, because starting as a newbie, right, is not very easy, because then all of a sudden, okay, you are starting off, you are fresh, like you don't know many things. And whereas at the current position, you already have your status, everyone knows you in the company, you have like this right salary.
Yeah.
But then I'm always thinking like, okay, just assess, you know, like, can you take this risk? And also thinking about my experiences, like so many great things came from this discomfort for me, that like every of those decisions that I took and was maybe a little risky, or like there was some risk involved, like really paid off so much. So I have no reason to think that my intuition is like bringing me to some bad places, because my intuition is always bringing me to some nice things, you know, like
Yeah. Yeah.
slowly but surely I get to my I start following kind of my destiny, you know, my calling.
Yeah.
Now I also get more and more into spiritual stuff. I will be also working now with the energy, so that I can help my clients not only on the emotional, mental level and spiritual one, but so far I actually use astrology and human design in my practice. I want to go even
Yeah.
further and work really with the energy, so that I could even support people a little bit physically. We can talk about it
Mm-hmm.
another time,
Mm-hmm.
because I think it can be also very interesting for you.
For sure. And but that's what I wanted to just say the same. I think we connect quite well, because what you do and what I do, because and what you do with your clients, I try to do the same. I try to support them when they're not always in their normal environment of having a gym around, or having too busy to go somewhere, just like also, or some people just like ask me to help them because they have heard through somebody else from me. But it doesn't matter, like we try to work on like the pillars of exercise, food, sleep, and also recovery, right? Because also if you're strong physically, you become robust and you become resilient, right? And resiliency is so important. Like, okay, you can be punched down, but you have to bounce back, right? You have to, but you can actually. The body is very strong if we let it be, right? And if we believe it, and if we want, and if we let it. But like, if we really train and make the body strong, like what you said, like before, when you recognize it, when you were the burnout, you were also like less healthy and eating differently. I recognize it myself. If I'm tired and exhausted, I want to eat candy, I want to eat chocolate, and I don't want to go to the gym. And then if I go, I'm like, oh, I feel so much better. And also studies show strong mental health is a strong physical health, with again, strong physical health is strong mental health. So it's so intertwined and so incredibly important.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all very interconnected, like all of those spheres. And it's like, in order to be really healthy and like happy and truly kind of fulfilled in life, we need to look after all of those spheres.
Yeah.
It's like this holistic approach. Only being in the mental space, and this is where many people are trapped. This is really way too little, you know.
Yeah.
Like we can try to kind of fool ourselves and numb, you know, like I don't know, with all of the drinks and stuff and all of the nice incentives, but this is very short lasting. And what else I wanted to add? Yeah, something about the spiritual sphere as a last one. So yeah, of course, like what I'm doing right now, I'm kind of helping people to map out their gifts when it comes to spiritual stuff. So I use astrology and human design. So human design is more or less like what's our natural system, so that we don't have to hit this wall, like be frustrated, but we know more or less how to take decisions in life. But I really invite everyone to start like listening more to their intuition, you know, because this is something very like spiritual. Like oftentimes I just have this feeling about someone, I'm meeting a person, and I have this feeling like, yeah, I think I will have some special connection with this person. And I know that this is not only like 1 or 2 meetings, we'll be cooperating or something, you know. And this is of course not rational, because how do I know in the moment? There is no facts, right? It's not supported by science, by anything. It's just pure spirituality. So I feel that I will be connected with this person. I really encourage everyone to meditate, because this really helps to develop intuition, to stay in silence. For example, I did once 10 hours being completely on my own, without music, without like any devices, communication. That was great. I had some very nice realizations, and that was at the beginning of the year. So I was like writing down my idea. That was the time when I was creating my business. I will be going for the silent retreat now on the 17th of November. And I will also definitely, well, this is going to be like 72 hours in silence. So very interesting. Let's see what will come up from that.
Yeah, and also like, I think I see that also when people, my clients, when they travel, right, and they feel alone, and we're not used to be alone anymore. And that doesn't need to mean we're lonely, right? Like being alone can be something very special. And like what you say, be without noise, with music, or with like some nice classical music, meditate, or just go out, and it's quite special. And I think also like a lot of people, they're like, well, I just rather go out with my colleagues for dinner, because then that's done, I show my face and that's it. But I also like, more and more I hear people, they say like, actually I would just like to go out by myself, right? And I had it with my last work trip, that I was eventually saying like, if you have dinner with each other every time and you have lunch together, you just crave this space a little bit, because you realize you want to build that bubble, that safety bubble around you. Just, that's also like your strength bubble, right, where you say like, this gives me the energy. And it's super important, because also like what you say, everybody needs to find the intuition, and what do they want. It's also, again, coming back to exercising. A lot of people are afraid of exercising, because they're like, yeah, but I don't like yoga, and everybody goes yoga, and all my friends go running. And like, no, you don't have to do it because all your friends go. You find what works for you, and then the expert that helps you can help you adapt to that, right? I mean,
exactly.
we don't need to stick to one thing. We can really, again, individualize, make a program. What are your fears? Where are you strong at? Like, how is your mind working? Everything, like emotions, physical, like, it's so individual.
It is, because if it was that easy, everyone would have been like absolutely super balanced and healthy and fulfilled. No, there's no such thing as one pattern or one scenario to follow. We are all very different. This is why I always say to people, yes, this may work for this person, but not necessarily for you. Just listen to yourself. And this is also why I'm so like happy doing coaching and all of those things, because this is different to mentoring. I mean, I can also mentor people, but I'm also happy to see more and more people really starting trusting themselves, right? Because in coaching, it's like you kind of ask questions, and it's not really like you do this and that and you will be successful. No, I'm asking questions because I know that you have all of the answers for yourself. Of course, I can support you a little bit with a little bit of mentoring if it's necessary, but this is how I was amazed, you know, when I started being coached, because I was like, yes, this is what I love, because finally it's not like I have to listen to what I've been told, even knowing that I just felt oftentimes in the moment that this is not going to work for me. So why I have to do that? I really felt this is not going to work for me. And in coaching is like, you give this chance to people to kind of really get in tune with themselves and understand themselves better, so that they can live really fulfilling lives.
For sure. And it's really just like, again, it comes down to that, to find what you want also. And what you say, the coaching is a great thing, because somebody works so close together with you and can find the pitfalls and can find what doesn't work, and that person works so closely to you. So if I work with my clients and they're like, how did you see this? And I never realized, it's like, because you tell me and I have the objective view, right? So somebody looks after you, and can help you with things that you don't see in your tunnel vision. And that's the great value of coaching, I think, to have
Yeah.
somebody, if you find somebody that you trust, that you can open up to, like, it can be such a fun teamwork. It's not that one is teaching the other one. No, you exchange experience and you make it, it's the road that is the fun, and that eventually, if you can reach the goal, that's incredible.
Definitely. And I also do peer coaching with some other coaches that are my peers. And sometimes I'm like, how come I didn't figure it out earlier? But because this person like is looking at me objectively, like from this perspective of the third person, and just ask me the right questions, I'm like, yes, actually, why I haven't thought about it earlier. It's really amazing. So yes, I'm also being coached myself, and then probably I will be coached my entire life. Because it's like very powerful. And I think that we all need, and also like some kind of accountability, right? Because sometimes it's easy to be, okay, for example, this week I have certain things, so maybe I won't start anything new, even though I know that I have space for that. And like, I'm kind of thinking about it, but it's avoiding, it's like the mind avoids this discomfort, because maybe this is something new. I will need to be outside of my comfort zone. And then also recently, I mean, some time ago, I also realized that I really love those moments when I do something uncomfortable, because oftentimes like it's great things are coming out, and I even feel this adrenaline. I don't know if you have the same thing, that like you just feel, oh, I did it, and actually I thought that I wouldn't be able to do it, or I contacted that person that I haven't spoken with for like a year, and I thought maybe she wouldn't reply to me or something, and then the response is very nice, and it's like, wow, I should have done it earlier.
Well, it's like, for me, one of the biggest motivations, like, for everything I do, is always say yes and figure out later how to do it. Like, and with that thing, I've like, the coolest jobs have come to me that way. The coolest things I've done, I was like, just yes, I'll figure, like, okay, I do it, but I don't know how. I will figure it out, and it always works out. And it's like scary, and that sometimes I'm like, oh Jesus, what did I do, right? But that's, again, with like what we said before, you have to have challenges, you have to have goals, challenge yourself, and not only with work, because it depends how you see work, right? We're not here to work in this life, we're here to live, and work can be a nice tool that gives us the money to reach certain things or do certain things. And I'm like, it's the same thing when people say like money doesn't make happy. I don't agree, because I think money can make you very happy, because money, I have had financial struggles, like big time, due to like a problem with my former business. But I'm like, I never want to have financial struggles again. So yes, money makes you happy, not completely, but money makes things easier, right? So you need to find a way how to harvest it, how do you get the money and still have fun while doing it. And then again, is the stuff that you do efficient? Is it fun enough? Is it working for you? Maybe it was 10 years ago, but not now anymore, and that is okay,
No, we are changing completely. And for example, now I'm working mainly with women, like with ambitious women who are like stuck in their careers. That's the typical group that I'm working with. But who knows, maybe like in a few years I will be working with mompreneurs, or like only people who want to establish a business, because like with the time that I'm more into this entrepreneurship thing, I really start loving it more and more. So it could be the case that I will pivot a little bit my career, not completely, but a little bit. And this is okay, because we are evolving, we are changing. And I think this is the beauty, that we are not like stuck in the same moment, right? In the same like situation or like profession, but we are like kind of moving as we are evolving in a way. And I think this is
for
really
sure. Yeah, and I mean, I ran my first business that I opened in 2012. Yeah, completely different than I do now, because of like experience, because I grew older and I had different life experience, different business experience. And now I'm like, I help so many people that travel for work, because I travel for work and I can exactly understand what they go through. Maybe in like a few years I don't do that anymore, and I'm like, oh yeah, why would you do that still, right? But it's okay, because if you're in that phase, you are in it, and like when you believe in it, you're convinced of it, and you go with passion, and that's a super important thing. So that's, I think, my big takeaway for this also, like where I always say to everybody, try to find your passion. And if you then can use your passion to go to work, or combine it with your work, and don't be scared to like say, look, I'm in corporate and it drains me, but I would love to have a little cafe. Why don't you just take like unpaid leave for a little bit and go work in a cafe? Maybe you're just like, oh no, that's not what I wanted, but dare to do it, dare to dream, and don't just dream, like call it an action, you know, like don't call it a dream, call it a plan. That's what they say.
Exactly, exactly. It's like I also believe that, I mean, we all can do something about it. And I know that maybe people who have like more obligations, they have family and maybe some kind of more difficult of a family situation. Maybe they cannot really change things drastically, but I believe that we all can do something, even like
I agree.
take some small actions like baby steps, and even like do, I don't know, even sacrifice this 1 hour a week, you know, for something, even taking a course, because like maybe someone want to become an architect. Like, why don't you take some kind of simple course for like 200 euros, right? And just get into it and see, maybe this is really like your passion. And then afterwards you will do something bigger, right? So step by step, over time, it will make a huge difference.
Agreed, absolutely. Yeah.
So I think it's an hour already, so probably
my God, time flies. Yeah, of course. I could talk to you forever, Magda.
Yeah, I know. Thanks so much, Martina. It's been a pleasure. But before
Very
we
welcome.
conclude, like the last, what can we say? Because we will send this video to people who couldn't attend, to people who actually wanted to, but maybe something else came up. And definitely, this is also, I mean, nice, no? Like to send an
for
hour-long
sure.
video. I would like to say that, I mean, you can find me, you know where to find me on LinkedIn, Magdalena Tatarczewska. I have my website, which is phoenixcoaching.co. I also have my Instagram account under the same name. And what else I wanted to mention, that I do offer free career strategy sessions for people who are maybe feeling a little bit stuck in their career, who are maybe feeling like, okay, they want to explore some other channels, different possibilities. I currently offer something like this. So just like message me directly and we can schedule a call. So probably that would be the last thing from me.
Yeah, and I agree. I think like again, what I just said then, I think it's like, it's not too late to change something. And really also, I would like to tell everybody, don't hesitate to ask for help, because you don't need to climb this mountain by yourself. And what Magda just said, maybe you cannot change everything in this situation, but you can change small things. Look after yourself. And again, ask for help. We're here. Like, I'm also helping people, like, again, if they're working abroad on a business trip, or if they're just very busy, like I'm helping people, and we have fun along this coaching like period, and we do it online. We have great talks and we find solutions. So I'm also on LinkedIn, Martina Plunger, and then on Instagram I use my business handle. It's the Prehab Studio, based in Amsterdam, but I do a lot of online work. So also, same as Magda, everybody's welcome to talk to me and send me a message, so we can just have a quick call and just assess the situation. If they could, if anybody could use my help, I'm happy to help. Always here.
Amazing. And I think we'll have more talks, no? Because
for sure,
like it seems like really short. I don't know, 1 hour passed, but
I know.
we'll come up with something else, so there will be more talks.
For sure.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Magda.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.